6:30.
Okay.
I don't see it.
Yep. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Chef Eileen from Aromas and Barrelicious Meals, and welcome to our celebration of Childhood Nutrition Day. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself before we jump into the recipe and into talking more about childhood nutrition. So I am the co-owner of Aromas Boutique Bakery in New York City. And we bake really fantastic wedding cakes and do all kinds of wonderful gifts and desserts. And we've been blessed enough to continue to do that throughout the pandemic. I'm also a nutrition educator and a culinary instructor. And those are two of my greatest passions. So when the opportunity came to do something to bring awareness to childhood nutrition, I thought a really great way to do that is to do a live lesson on YouTube, walking our families through creating a really healthy meal. Now, the American Culinary Federation is a group of chefs, and we're all over the United States. And we are celebrating together during the month of October. It's usually celebrated on October 16th, so I'm a couple of days early. But it's all about bringing awareness to issues of hunger, of nutrition in children, right? So we're talking about hunger, we're talking about obesity, we are talking about food insecurity. And so I'm focusing on nutrition today. I'm doing a one-pot meal, and I'm gonna show you the ingredients. Some people registered and got the recipe ahead of time. There's some people who may be cooking along with me. So here I have in front of me some of our ingredients. We've got a whole grain pasta. We've got some canned tomatoes, some chicken broth. There's some tomato paste, some dry herbs, olive oil, and Parmesan cheese. So those are our ingredients. In addition to ground turkey and some basil, and then of course salt and pepper. Right. We also have some aromatic vegetables that I have over at the stove top. We've got some garlic, some onion, some carrot, and some celery. We're going to put all that together to make a really healthy and delicious meal in under 45 minutes. That's one pot. So in addition to that, I'm going to talk to you about pricing out your recipe and pricing it out like a professional, right? Because that's what chefs do in our kitchens, in restaurants. We need to know the cost of all of our ingredients down to the teaspoon of salt. So in pricing that, we know where our money's going. And that's super important for our families, right? When you know how much you're spending per meal, you can actually plan out your month. You can plan out and really stretch your dollar. So it's important for families, it's important for individuals, it's important for college students. I talk about it all the time. All right, so that's a little bit about me and what we're doing tonight. And then just one fact why I'm focusing on nutrition and talking about hunger is there are over 16 million children in the United States that are living with hunger, right? And that number throughout the pandemic, it grew by 6 million. So it is definitely an issue for our country, and we need to bring awareness to it, and we need to be talking about it. So let's do that. So those of you who are joining the conversation today, welcome. Those of you who are cooking, I'm going to try not to cook too quickly, right? I have an assistant here who's watching the chat. So if you have questions, put them into the chat and she will make sure that I see them, okay? While we're cooking and while the pasta's cooking, I will walk you through pricing out the recipe and tell you how much this recipe was to create. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this camera off. I'm gonna meet you over by the stovetop so you can see what's happening from above. Okay. Okay, guys, can you see my stovetop? Awesome. So here we are. I've got a pot. I'm making a smaller amount. The recipe I provided is for 1 full box of pasta, right? So it is enough for 4 to 6 people. There are only a couple of us here today, so I'm gonna make a smaller amount. And so I have this smaller pot. You can cook in a Dutch oven, you can cook in a pot, either one will work. So here's my pot, and I've had it heating up. And drop it a little more. Okay. So I have it heating up. Into the pot, I'm going to start off with my olive oil, and it's got 2 tablespoons of olive oil, which is about 1 ounce of olive oil. We're going to heat that up.
Please say hi to Braden.
Okay. So I have some people are joining, and I want to say hello to, I have a younger cousin. His name is Braden. Hi, Braden. Thanks for joining, and thanks for cooking with me. I hope you and your mom will get a chance to make this recipe together at some point if you're not cooking tonight. Okay, into my pot, I'm going to start off with our ground turkey. And I'm using turkey. You can use you can use ground chicken or ground beef. And the whole point is for you to brown the turkey. When you brown it, you start caramelizing it, and it's the beginning of adding flavor. So adding flavor, we're adding some salt. And I have some sea salt here. You can use kosher salt, you can use table salt, and it works. And then we've got some fresh black pepper going in. And again, the recipe is available, but here we are. I'm going to, you want to hear a little bit of sizzle because we're browning this. I have it a little lower so that you can hear me. But you're just going to continue to move the ground turkey around to make sure that it cooks completely. And again, this recipe will take you about 45 minutes. And your family will love it. So you see that it's starting to lose some of its pink. You want it to be completely brown. And it will continue to cook, right? Because we're going to add all the ingredients in there. All right. There's a few more specks of pink. I want to make sure to get those out. So while we do this, if you have any assistants in your kitchen, any helpers, you want to have them grab your onion, your celery, and your carrot. And those should have been finely chopped. I'm going to show you why. So these are the vegetables that get hidden into your pasta dish. They add a ton of flavor. And you're going to cook those down. So in go our vegetables. And the reason I suggested you cut them down, finely chop them, because it's not a sauce that's going to cook for a long time. Sometimes meat sauces or bolognese sauces are on the stove for like an hour or 2 hours. Because we're doing a quick version of it, you want your onion and your carrot and your celery to be chopped kind of fine, especially if you have like picky eaters who don't want to see any vegetables, right? Mine are a little larger because I like seeing vegetables in my sauce. So again, we're going to saute this. Turn this up to have a little bit of heat. I want to hear some sizzle because I want to be adding, I want this to start to caramelize a bit. I talk about caramelizing all the time because that's another way to add flavor. Browning food adds another level of flavor. So we're going to caramelize this. We're going to cook up, make sure these onion, the carrot, and the celery start to soften up, okay? So essentially you're going to mix this for about 3 minutes. We're going to cook this. Everything's going to start to soften up. You should already begin to smell all of those vegetables releasing their juices and releasing this really great aroma. With a little bit of a sizzle. I'm keeping I usually go a little higher. I'm keeping it to a minimum so that you can hear me clearly. And then just let me know if there are any questions as we go along. At this point, I'm going to add in half of the garlic that I have minced. And we're going to stir that up. And again, that smell, you'll smell the garlic start to release its aroma. Your meat is fully cooked at this point, so if you wanted to taste it to see how your flavor is coming along, you can feel free to do that. Here's a closer look what it's starting to look like. So I'm going to taste it because this is one of the times where we're going to adjust our seasoning, right? Adjusting meaning we're going to taste it for salt and pepper. Okay. So it definitely needs some salt. We're going to start with that. Add some pepper. And then we have an additional spice. We have an Italian spice blend. If you don't have Italian blend in your cupboard, like oregano works, basil, ground basil works, any of those will work. So you're going to add those, and again, every time you add an ingredient, you're going to stir it up. Every ingredient matters. Okay, so what's happening as we cook this off, the moisture that had accumulated at the bottom of the pan is starting to dry up. Usually it'll brown, you'll see some brown on the bottom of the pan, which is called the fond, F-O-N-D. And we're gonna want to deglaze that. So we're gonna use our chicken broth to help release anything that's stuck to the bottom of your pan, because we wanna use all of those flavors. So the recipe calls for 3 cups of chicken broth. Again, if you're using ground beef, you may use beef broth, or you can always use vegetarian broth if that's what you have on hand. So I'm gonna start with a little of the broth just to help release any bits that have stuck to the bottom of our pan. I don't really have many. But scrape the bottom of your pan to release anything that's stuck and stir it in, okay? Before we add the rest of our broth, we're gonna go ahead. We're starting the base for our sauce. So we've got some tomato paste. And that's 2 ounces of tomato paste. Again, after every addition, stir it up. Okay. All right, so you don't see any remnants of that tomato paste. It's all stirred in there. Again, if you have any helpers in your kitchen, you want to let them know the next steps are coming up. You want your pasta, you want your crushed tomatoes, and your remaining garlic. Also, the additional broth. So again, you should start to smell this. That sauce is marrying with all those flavors in there. Again, give it a taste and see how we're doing with our flavor. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead, we're going to add our tomatoes. And so if I was making the whole batch, the whole pound of pasta, I would add all of these tomatoes, but I'm only doing half of it, so I'm gonna go ahead and add half. So it's about 14 ounces of tomato. And these are crushed tomato. Stir that in. So you notice my pot, all the bubbling just kind of simmered down. As you add ingredients, the pot tends to cool off, right? So we're going to let it heat up a little, just about a minute or so to come back to temperature, because then we're gonna add our pasta in and our broth. And again, it's all gonna come down. Guys, put your questions in chat. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Again, I'm adjusting seasoning as I go. It's a very fine grind, so trust me, I'm not adding a lot of salt. It just looks that way. Okay, so I've got my bubbles, so I know that my sauce is back up to a simmer. We're going to add our broth. 1 can of broth. And then we're going to add our pasta. Again, the recipe I gave you guys has calls for 1 pound of pasta. I'm making half of it. One pound will give you about 4 to 6 servings, depending on it.
Chef, why are you putting in the pasta and it's not cooked?
That is a great question. All of us have grown up cooking our pasta on the side in a pot of water. We have tried in our professional kitchens to make all this cooking a lot more efficient, right? And so in cooking it in one pot, when you're cooking in one pot, we're actually, the sauce, the chicken broth is what's going to be cooking your pasta. Just the way water would cook it and soften it, our chicken broth is gonna do that. And this is, it has 2 benefits. Not only does it keep you from having to clean another dish, but you have the added flavor, like the pasta is actually taking on the flavor that's in the pot, right? So the garlic, the tomatoes, all of that. So you're gonna have a much more. That is a great question. Thank you for asking. More bits of pasta. The rest of my chicken broth. So what's gonna happen is this is cooking along. We're going to taste it in a minute to adjust the seasoning again. And then for the next 20 to 30 minutes, you're just stirring it to make sure it's all cooking, right? Make sure the pasta is not sticking. So I'm gonna wait for it to come to a boil, and then I'm gonna move on to the section where I'm watching my pasta, but I'm also talking to you about portioning out and pricing out your recipes. So let's taste. I'm gonna, the remaining bit of garlic. I throw my garlic in stages because as it cooks, it mellows out. And I kind of like the pungent flavor of garlic, so I want a little bit of that to remain at the end. So I know it looks like a soup right now. I promise you it will not be a soup. It's, your pasta is going to start to absorb that sauce. I shorted myself, so I'm gonna add a little more of it. we want to bring it to a boil, right? And so remember, when there's a simmer, you see very little bubbles, which are usually on the perimeter. A boil, you're going to start to see bigger bubbles in the center. So I'm starting to see bigger bubbles. You want to make sure all your pasta is covered. So you shouldn't see any pasta right now, right? Because that broth is just like when you're boiling pasta, you want it all covered by that liquid so that it can soften up. Right? So there it is. My pasta is boiling. It's going to cook itself. Occasionally, I just have to come in and give it a stir. And we're going to cook it until it's tender. So this should take about 15 more minutes. Once we see the boil, we're going to drop it a little so that our pasta and our meat don't stick at the bottom. We want them to cook. And then occasionally give it a stir, okay? So how easy was that, right? Dinner is essentially almost done. Okay, I'm gonna stay at the stove top so that I can stir occasionally and tell you about pricing out this recipe and pricing out recipes in general. Any questions about what's happening in the pot before I move on?
See any?
All right. Okay.
What if you want a heartier vegetable? Like maybe that's not enough and you want your children to have greens or I don't know, asparagus. What's a good way to add it or serve it with this recipe?
Yeah, so with this recipe, if you want to add vegetables in it, don't any additional vegetables, right? We already have the carrot and celery. You want to wait till it's almost done. So you can throw in some spinach or some arugula when you see most of the liquid has reduced. You can throw in some of that. If you have a heartier vegetable, like maybe asparagus or green bean, you want to throw that in right before you see all the liquid disappear, right? So it depends on how tough, how sturdy that vegetable is. But if you're going to do like a green, a leaf or something along the line, right before it's finished cooking, throw it in and it will wilt perfectly. Okay? All right, so I have been talking all week about the importance of knowing how much you're spending on your ingredients, right? It goes hand in hand with like knowing how healthy your food is. So we talk about nutrition and why we should eat healthy food. Why do we want our children to be eating solid meals? Why are we worried about children who are hungry? Children who are living with hunger, they just don't perform as well in school situations. So it's much harder for them to learn when they don't have any food in their system, when they're feeling hungry. I mean, think about, the average adult. There's a certain part of the day when you're sitting at your desk and you can't focus because you're feeling hungry, your blood sugar is low. Imagine a child dealing with that at school, right? So this is why we're talking about this. We want them to be able to perform. We want them to be able to succeed. So we feed them healthy food. Now, in order to feed them healthy food, we need to be able to stretch our dollar. And, I do this all the time when I'm planning out my recipes. And I remember when, our business was a really young business and I was helping to raise my nephew. And I had to plan very carefully, right? I had a very strict budget. So I needed to know what I was spending on food. So this is all, I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from like a chef who has worked in professional kitchens, and this is how we price our recipes. And I'm speaking as someone who has had to raise a child on a budget and manage food costs, okay? So knowing what you're spending helps you spend smarter. You get more for your buck. So check out your circulars, see what's on sale, and plan. Here's the method that we use. Once you have planned out what you're shopping for, you go and you shop for your groceries, you come back, you want to price out, how much did I spend on this? And this is good because then you'll know what you're spending the next time. You'll need your receipt, you'll need your original packaging, so the cans, the boxes, a pen and paper, and a calculator. And then you want your recipe either printed out or you want to write it out on a piece of paper. I have mine printed out, right? So those are the things you'll need. You're going to check your recipe to find the prices of the ingredients that you use, right? Everything is itemized on your recipe. And you're going to start by looking at the items that you use in bulk. So if I bought a bag of pasta and say I use the entire bag of pasta, my bag of pasta costs me $2. I'm gonna add the price of that pasta on my list. $2 is the cost of that, right? Maybe I use the whole can of tomatoes and the can of tomatoes is $1.79. That's the whole price of that. But in some cases, we're buying a full bag of onion or a bunch of carrots and we're only using one onion. So with that, you have to actually do the work and use some division. So you have any middle schoolers, if you have any school-age children, put them to work with their calculators, have them do a little math and help you figure out the portion cost, right? So what are you spending on that one onion? If that bag of onions was $2 and there's 5 of them, and you're using one onion, right, you're spending 40 cents. And it'll get clearer as I go.
Can we switch cameras?
All right, I'm gonna come over, let me mix this, and then I'm gonna come over to the other side. See how the pasta sauce is already. That is going to continue to simmer. And I'm going to talk to you from here. Hi guys, so that sauce is cooking, but I want to tell you a little more. I'm going to break down the whole pricing of your recipe. And I'm going to give you a link. It's budgetbites.com that will actually walk you through this. So I'm just going to tell you about it, but there will be a link so you'll be able to do this for yourself. You can add it now. Joanne's going to go ahead and put it in now so you can use it for future costing. And I'm going to give you an example before I do this recipe, which has many ingredients. So one of my guilty pleasures is peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I love whole grain bread, creamy peanut butter, raspberry preserves. Really simple. I toast it up. It's delicious. I usually will split it with my sister. So what are my ingredients for, I wrote it down so that I don't forget. I'm pricing out how much my one peanut butter and jelly sandwich is going to cost me, even though I bought a full loaf of bread, which is $4, of whole grain bread, it's $4. Creamy peanut butter, $3, and preserves, again, $4. So I'm going to use 2 slices of bread. And I know that in my loaf of bread, there are 16 slices. So I'm going to divide $4 by 16 slices, right? By 16. And essentially it's going to tell me that it's 25 cents a slice. And I'm using 2 slices. So for my bread, it's 50 cents is my portion cost. Then for peanut butter, a jar of peanut butter is about 16 ounces and my jar costs $3. So I'm going to divide $3 by 16 to give me my 1 ounce cost. And that is 19 cents an ounce. And I'm going to put about an ounce of peanut butter on my sandwich. And the last thing for my sandwich are my raspberry preserves. And a jar of raspberry preserves is about $4 and it is 12 ounces. So again, we're going to take our $4 and divide it by 12, which is going to give us our portion cost. So 1 ounce of raspberry preserves is 33 cents. So what I know is I have 50 cents that I'm spending on my 2 slices of bread, 19 cents on my peanut butter, 33 cents on my jam. Put that all together, my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? My afternoon snack cost me $1.02. I know, really inexpensive. And I share that with my sister, so really my portion is just 51 cents, right? So it's all about portion control. So that's how you price out a recipe. And that's the most basic recipe that I can give you. The basic way I can show you how to price a recipe, right? PB&J, can't go wrong with that. Now, the recipe that we use tonight, it has olive oil, it has ground turkey, it has onion, garlic, carrots, celery, crushed tomatoes, Italian seasoning. Those are a lot of ingredients. So you're gonna need the pen and paper to price it out. And I'm gonna walk you through that. Let me just take a look at our sauce. I'm going to stir it to make sure nothing is sticky. Look at that. Beautiful meat sauce developing. I'm also going to taste it to see how we're doing with our salt content. You're not only tasting the salt content, maybe you like it a little more peppery. Maybe you want some more of that Italian seasoning. Okay, it's still cooking. The noodles are still a little firm. So let it go. All right, so the price of this recipe. Here we go. We've got olive oil, and I know big bottles of olive oil, 17 ounces, and we're only use about an ounce of that. So you've got $4.39 for that big bottle of olive oil. Our portion cost, if we're only using 1 ounce, is 26 cents. Our onion, our bag had 5 onions in it. I only need 1 onion. So I had to figure out how much 1 onion was costing me. 1 onion was only gonna cost me 35 cents. I'm sorry, 53 cents. Turkey, 1 pound of turkey cost me $3.29. I'm using the whole pound of turkey. So that's the price that I'm adding there. For garlic, 3 bulbs of garlic came in the pack, and it cost $1.35, and I'm only using 1 of them, right? I use 8 cloves of garlic in this sauce. So for 1 of those, 45 cents. Our carrot, when you buy carrots, it's hard to buy just 1. Sometimes you can, but for the most part, they come in a bunch. So I only needed 1 carrot, and the whole bunch cost $1.65. So my 1 carrot cost me 28 cents. Celery, same deal, comes in a bunch. I only needed 1 piece of it though. So 25 cents for 28 cents for that celery. Italian seasoning. Now these guys are a little harder to price, right? Because it's usually like this jar, which is barely an ounce. You have to figure out how many teaspoons are in there. It gets complicated. So I just kind of do an average for my spices. I say, I'm gonna spend about 25 cents on my dry spice. And they do the same thing for salt and pepper. I just give myself about 5 cents for salt and pepper. Okay. Next, we've got our tomato paste. Our tomato paste is this little can, which is 6 ounces of tomato paste in here. And this can of tomato paste costs 45 cents. I used 1/3 of it, right? So if I used 1/3 of it, 3 into the 45 cents, 15 cents is the portion cost of the tomato paste. And then we've got our crushed tomato, which was that large can, was $1.29. And for the full recipe, you're using $1, the full can, so that's $1.29. Okay, so when you tally all of that up, and I have the Parmesan and basil, which I'm adding at the end, so you don't see it, but basil cost me $3.29 for a bunch of it, and I'm using half of it, so $1.65. And then Parmesan cost me $2.19 for about 5 ounces of it, and I'm using just a portion of that, so $1.10. So this cost me $13.54 to make this dish, right? So this meal, which is healthy, it is delicious, it's costing me $13.54, and I can get anywhere from 4 to 6 servings out of it. I give you an average because sometimes some families have big eaters, right? And 4 people will eat that. Some families have, people have smaller appetites. So maybe 6 portions. I believe most, on average, the boxes of pasta will tell you that it's 8 portions, but it depends on your family. So this one, $13.54. I grew up in a family of 5, so I priced it for 5 people. So the portion cost is $2.71. So for $2.71, everyone in my family can have a bowl of hearty and delicious pasta that is full of whole grains. It's full of nutrients, right, from those tomatoes and the carrots and the onion, and it's full of flavor with the basil and the garlic, okay? So $2.71. Now, I always talk about this because people talk about the value menus at their local fast food joints. What can you buy, right? Can you get a full meal at your fast food joint for $2.71? That's going to satisfy hunger, that is going to give you energy, that is going to feed you. I haven't found one yet. So there is my proof that you should be cooking your meals at home whenever possible, and start practicing pricing things out. I know that it seems, the way I described it, it can seem daunting, it can seem like a big task, but if you start with maybe 1 recipe a week, it helps you know how you're spending your money. And when you know how you're spending your money and how you're budgeting, you can stretch it out, right? And you can have, you get more for your money, right? And so that's another way that we deal and fight with food insecurity. We teach our families how to stretch their dollar and how to get the most food for the money that they have on hand. All right, I hope that was helpful. The link to Budget Bites, which gives you a very clear way of doing this, is in the chat. I showed you how to price out my favorite treat, peanut butter and jelly, and I showed you how to price out the recipe that we're working on, our one pot whole grain pasta bolognese. It is 7:07. I promised I'd be done by 7:30. I'm gonna go back to our stovetop to see how our pasta is doing. Pop any questions into the chat. So I'm gonna mix and I might talk to you a little more about how else we can make a difference with childhood hunger. All right, here we are. We still are at a simmer, which is what we want. It may have stuck a little at the bottom, and that's okay. You just want to try and stir it up. I'm going to grab a fork so I can taste the noodle and see how firm it is. Okay, so regular like semolina noodles will cook a lot faster than whole grain noodles because these guys have more fiber in them. Just a little tip for you. This is actually almost done. Most restaurants will cook the pasta till it's called al dente, so it still has a little chew to it. I know a lot of families, I grew up in a family that likes really soft pasta, so my mom would let this go like at least 5 more minutes. I like a little chew. So there is my pasta. I'm going to grab a bowl and I'm going to prepare my basil and my cheese because this is almost done. All right, so all the ingredients are in there except for our fresh basil and our Parmesan cheese. So basil gives you a nice aromatic flavor. And if you're using fresh basil, you don't want to throw it in too soon because all of that flavor that it gives you, all that freshness will dissipate. It'll just kind of disappear right into the sauce. And we like to taste the freshness of basil. So I'm gonna save it for either the very end, right before I take it off the pot, take it off the stove, or I'm gonna just sprinkle it on top of my pasta so I get even more flavor. So with the basil, we're going to do what we call a chiffonade. So very, here, these ribbons. You see that?
Yes.
Right. So these beautiful ribbons of basil. So that is our basil. Set that aside. And then my Parmesan cheese, sometimes I'll buy Parmesan like ribbons or chips. Sometimes I buy it whole. Today I have a whole piece. And I'm just gonna grate some on the side while I wait for my sauce to finish. And actually, that looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna turn that off. And I'm just gonna grate some Parmesan on the side so I can show you how we put this dish together. How fast was that? Isn't that great? How quickly it cooks. There are not a ton of pots on your stove top. It's relatively easy cleanup. So there is my Parmesan. Okay. So I'm gonna serve this up. Here are my whole grain pasta.
Hearty.
It's really hearty, right? Your carrots are in there, your celery, you've got pieces of tomato. You can always throw in, if you like peppers, you can throw in some sweet peppers in there. All of that goes in really well. So then, so you can always, right, throw basil right in and mix it. Or you can do what I'm going to do. Just take some of my basil and I'm gonna throw it on top. And then I will mix it in when I eat, right? So there is some basil and right there. And I'm going to finish it off with some yummy Parmesan. I like Parmesan. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the other camera to show you what this looks like and to answer any more questions and talk about how you can join the conversation and what you can do. Hi guys, okay. So there it is, can you see that? Yep, okay, so this is, I mean, it smells delicious. It smells so good, I can't wait to bite into it, except I can't talk and chew at the same time, so I'm not gonna do that. But you just watch me make, and those of you who are cooking with me, you just made a really whole grain, healthy and delicious meal with minimal cost, right? $2.71 a portion. $2.71 a portion for this delicious bowl of pasta, which has lean ground turkey. It has tomatoes and onion and garlic. You've got whole grain pasta, right? Because we want you to eat whole grains. It's okay if you have white pasta every now and then, but whole grains gives you added fiber, helps keep you full. So we want you eating whole grains, okay? So that is the recipe that we created tonight. Again, $2.71, okay? So I have posted earlier on my different social media links, my tips on shopping. So I hope that you've seen them. So the first one was make a list, know what you're shopping for. When you know what you're shopping for, it reduces your impulse buys, right? Impulse buys will hurt you in your wallet, right? They'll hit you. So you want to avoid the impulse buys. So create a plan for yourself, make a list. Also, don't shop hungry. I've done this plenty of times. Don't shop hungry. You'll want to add things to your list that you weren't on your list. So don't shop hungry, and then stick to your list, right? Read your labels. Find out, how much sodium is in that? How much fiber is in that? So read your food labels. When you're paying when you're at the register and you're paying, get in the habit of reviewing your receipt. People do make mistakes. Sometimes things get scanned twice. You don't want to end up paying for an item twice, right? That is money that is taken away from the money you have allotted to feed your family. So check your receipt right before you go. It doesn't take too long to just give it a look. Don't feel bad about it. Like don't stand there the whole time and just kind of go through each item, but check your receipt to make sure. I have caught errors. I really have caught errors. So check your receipt. When you go home and get your ingredients, home, of course, anything that needs to be refrigerated, anything that needs to be chilled, right into the refrigerator. We're all about food safety. Anything else, right into your pantry. But decide what you're cooking and then take a few minutes to price it out, right? Figure out how much did I spend on this meal? And then pat yourself on the back because you likely you likely did a really good job of shopping because you used all these different tips, okay? So that was from, I posted that earlier today. I hope that was valuable and that you all will be not only out in the world cooking amazing meals, but saving money as you do it. Let's see, so that's my meal plan. And then I am ahead of time, but I do have some people to thank, and I want to go ahead and do that. In case you have any questions, put them right into the chat box. So Childhood Nutrition Day, I'm so glad that I got a chance to celebrate it with you all today, and I'm grateful for the American Culinary Federation for creating this holiday and bringing awareness to hunger and obesity and food insecurity and all of these issues around childhood nutrition. So I want to thank the ACF for partnering with me on this. I'm a proud member, and I'm so excited for recreating this next year. I had other partners in this this time around. So I had the National Sports Zone Foundation is one of our sponsors. So I want to thank them for their commitment to families and children and their well-being. I want to thank Active Plus, which is an organization that I also teach for. And I want to thank them for partnering with me and for sharing with their families. The Dream Network, right? So Dream Charter Schools. My nephew was a dreamer. He will forever be a dreamer. And I've been a part of that family for a long time. So I'm so glad to have Dream families join me today. And I want to thank them for sharing this across their networks. I want to also thank the Amsterdam Muse, right? I'm a staff writer for them, and they, of course, posted and mentioned National Childhood Nutrition Day. Let's see, did I miss anyone else? Borinquen Health Center in East Harlem is a really amazing health center. I actually remember going there as a child, and they partnered with us today, and I want to thank them for being a part of this. And finally, Vitafusion gummy, Vitafusion vitamins. And if you guys don't know them, I did post about them earlier. They are a gummy vitamin company. They have vitamins for little people, for our little ones. These are the little critters, as they call it. And they have vitamins for adults as well. And it is it is really delicious. I tried I tried one. I tried the one for adults. It's really quite delicious. And they are about, getting good food and good nutrition into people. That's what they're about. So their vitamins are affordable. You find them at your local, I don't know, Walmart or Target. They're not expensive vitamins. So they're really great. They're actually really great. And Vitafusion, I had some families who registered on my website, and we're going to go ahead and make sure you guys get some vitamins. So thank you, Vitafusion, for providing the vitamins for that and for partnering with that as well.
Fruit Tree Planting Foundation.
And then, how I met the Vitafusion team is I went to a planting event with the Fruit Tree Planting Foundation and Concrete Safari just a little under a week ago. And they're doing amazing work in East Harlem as well. Also committed to health and well-being. So I'm, check them out if you haven't checked them out. Those guys are really great. Now, for other resources, right? Because this is Childhood Nutrition Day, which is officially on Saturday, the 16th. I'm celebrating today. The conversation doesn't end here with this one amazing dish. It does not end here. Hunger is real. Our children deal with it and are living with it day in and day out. So it's a conversation we want to continue talking about. We want to continue figuring out how we can make a difference. I've talked about donating to your local food pantries. Find out where they are in your community. I promise they exist. Your churches have food pantries. Community health centers have food pantries. There are some hospitals and clinics that have food pantries. Donate to them. Figure out how you can help them. Sometimes you've made too much food. Check on your neighbor. Offer them a meal. See, ask them if they'd like it. This is one of my favorite things to do. Just text someone and say, hey, would you like some dinner? So that's something that you can do. Talk about it in your schools. A lot of you are educators. A lot of you are on your PTAs. So start the conversation at school about this. Let's see, what else can I tell you? There are so many more resources, and they will be up on my website. So some of you did not register on the website. Some of you are just on YouTube, and thank you for doing that. But chefeileen.life is my website, and on there, not only will this recipe be up, so there are plenty of other recipes that will be going up. There's an opportunity to join other classes that I do virtually. And there are other resources on there as well. So that's on chefeileen.life. As far as YouTube, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the page because on here, this video will be on. So if you want to watch it, and if you didn't cook tonight and you want to watch it on replay, you can do that. So Chef Eileen on YouTube. So subscribe to watch this video. There are also a bunch of other healthy cooking recipes, healthy meal recipes. Yes, there are other recipes on here. There are tutorials on different cooking methods like sauteing, like grilling. So that's on there. There's information on how to stock your kitchen. All of that is on YouTube. So you're gonna wanna subscribe on there. And then if you subscribe, whenever I go live, you'll get a little alert. I think that's how that works. That tells you that I'm live and that you can watch and see what I'm doing. I'm hoping to be able to do this again one more time before the end of the year, do another free live session, just like this, another really delicious recipe. Maybe we'll do something a little more complicated than the pasta. So we're gonna do one more before the end of the year, and then mark your calendars because we're doing Childhood Nutrition Day again next year. I'm already planning for that, okay? So we're doing that next year. So for all of like my partners, be on the lookout for the email from me saying we're doing it again. For all of my families that are on here, be on the lookout for more recipes and more classes. I love to cook with people and I love to have you all out there in the world cooking. I think it makes a huge difference. Food brings people together. So cook good food. Let's get good food onto your plates. All right, any final questions? I thanked all of my partners. Those of you who registered, I'll be in touch about getting these to you. Those of you who are here watching, don't forget to subscribe. I'll have some highlights from like the week. I'll post some pictures of everything in action so we can relive this. I feel like I should be throwing confetti in the air or like letting loose balloons or something.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you are all here celebrating Childhood Nutrition Day with me, talking about childhood nutrition because it matters. And that is all I have for today. Yeah, I think that's it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on. This is Chef Eileen with Aromas and Brown Delicious Meals and the American Culinary Federation, thanking you for joining us in our celebration of National Childhood Nutrition Day. I will see you in our next class. Bye.